This is Slick.
This is Rudy.
And this week it's How Can You Mend a Broken Heart?
It's very, very close to Valentine's Day. This is our last chance to chat before Valentine's Day, and there's plenty other places you can get playlists of sappy love songs. I think we're going to go deeper this week. I think we're going to go very deep into the love song playlist for the holiday.
Yeah, deep into the world of, deep into the aftermath, or maybe you're alone on Valentine's Day, and this is right where you are. Be ready for, at least on my end, be ready for some heartbreak.
Yeah, there's a lot of great heartbreak records out there. There's a lot of great songs about love. I'm gonna go all over the place, and I'm gonna just hop around and try to find different subcategories. But it's all love. It's nothing but love. Up next.
Mine is Exile in Mopesville, so be ready for that. It's episode 21 of Left of the Dial.
Right, this one you may well know, you may not know it, and if you don't know it, I really don't know where you've been.
You forgot? Forgot the magnetism of Robin Zander or the charisma of Rick Nielsen?
That's kid stuff.
It's just come up to 5:35 a.m. Kommen Sie bitte und listen to Kraftwerk.
I don't know, man. I kind of like Van Halen.
Well, yeah, Plum, you do. And you know why you do? Because corporate America is shoving something down your throat and making you believe it because that's what they want you to believe. I mean...
Okay, buddy. I was just trying to cheer us up, so go ahead. Put on some old sad bastard music, see if I care.
That was Big Yellow Taxi by Joni Mitchell, a song in which Joni complains that they paved Paradise to put up a parking lot. A measure which actually would have alleviated traffic congestion on the outskirts of Paradise, something which Joni singularly fails to point out, perhaps because it doesn't quite fit in with her blinkered view of the world. Nevertheless, nice song.
How about the tunes? I want you to want me. The dream police. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Your mama's alright. Your daddy's alright.
I get by because the people make a special effort to shop here. Mostly young men who spend all their time looking for deleted Smith singles and original, not re-released underline, Frank Zappa albums.
Gang. Yes. I mean, look, you can play an E pentatonic scale at 100 miles an hour till somebody's ears burn off. You can learn that, right? But finding the tangents within the framework, therein lies the artistry, man.
God made your ears. You didn't make them. You gonna argue with God's ears? If it sound good and it feel good, then it's musical. So play it like I say play it. From the top.
That was Sweating Lunatic Iggy Pop, part of our Tuesday night punk pack, which is climaxing at midnight with Madness. This is Norfolk Nights with Alan Partridge, and we're in the middle of Super Talk. Super Talk!
All right, it is week 21. It is also the show just before Valentine's Day. And I think it would be irresponsible for us as budding podcasters to not thematically tie our content to the upcoming holiday.
Yeah, big list for both of us, so an epic Valentine's Day list. But warning, at least for my list, this isn't the one that, this isn't the feel-good Valentine's list that you might be expecting from a Valentine's Day themed show, and that's why we're calling the show How Can You Mend a Broken Heart? Because, you know, it's a great song. There are at least two great versions of it, and both of them are on my list. Spoiler.
I don't know. How would you even figure out what the ratio is of like pure love songs like the I Love You variety versus the songs about love versus the songs about love lost? Like, I wonder what the division is.
I don't know what the division is. At least from my perspective, I know where the quality quotient is. You know, what it favors, and you know, from my perspective, it favors the heartbreak songs, and that's why why it's basis for my list.
Well, I'm going to give you a wide lane for that one. I'm going to do a little bit of genre hopping, but I've been tried to include what I would consider, the high end of some subgenres, including the varieties where the romance doesn't quite work out.
Yeah.
I think thematically, I think we're locked and loaded.
Yeah.
And I think I think you won the coin toss and are going first this week, sir.
Well, are we going to discuss the playlist? The rotation list?
Oh, sure. We can do that.
Okay, yeah. So a few things added to the rotation list this week. Not a lot of new stuff, but a couple of things that I thought were worth adding.
Yeah, the new music so far this year, I wouldn't say it hasn't been overwhelming the like brand new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I did throw Jens Lekman. He has a new one. I threw that in there. There's a new Mitski record, a new M Ward record. But I think we've already heard some M Ward.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't a super huge week for brand new music. Although I saw you put Corner Shop in. That's
I put new stuff from Corner Shop in, Saint Mary Under Cannon, Beaten Down by Sharon Van Etten, also new this week. I'm not going to not put Sharon Van Etten on the list. That's going to happen, unless she really puts out something that I'm just not into. But it hasn't happened so far.
No, I approve.
So this was the week where I got some time to listen to the new Wolf Parade, and so I included Underclass from that on the rotation list. And even though this isn't really the way the show is supposed to work, when we did last week our second edition of I'm Gonna Make You Love Me, Sloan was my recommendation to you, and then that kicked off a big week of listening to Sloan, where it just I couldn't get enough Sloan this week. So I added a couple more songs to the rotation list that weren't included on the list I gave you last week, and those two would be Losing California from Between the Bridges and 500 Up from Smeared. We talked a little bit about Smeared last week. I didn't have any songs from Smeared on the Sloan list, and so I added one to the rotation list because there are a few good ones. Underwhelmed is great. 500 Up is great. I want to say I Am the Cancer is the title of the of one of the other ones I like a lot off of that one.
I think Underwhelmed was the single, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it was.
It was. And that album, not the most representative of Sloan's later output. A bit more shoegazy back then, but good, and nothing wrong with that. But it was just that was they didn't quite develop their identity yet at that point, an identity of their own.
Yeah, that got him into a little trouble with me because I did buy that album at the time and I will not have you dissing shoegaze in this house. So I know you didn't.
I didn't, and I wouldn't. I have nothing against shoegaze. I
know you didn't, but
like that stuff.
No, you won't.
I like Ride. I like My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah, that's some good shit. In any event, I do think they got caught in a bit of a record company pushing an image on them that really wasn't them for that record.
Well, I think that's who they were at that time. I think the record company wanted them to stay in that place because that was more what was going to sell at that time, and they became more like they went more into their Beatlesque sort of to the Beatles roots that they have, and that was more where they found their home.
But they also got pushed as like the radio stations would be like Buzz Band or Sloan Hot Buzz Band of the Week, like that they had that stink on them a little bit.
That was what DGC, what Geffen Records wanted at that time.
Yes,
And
it is.
and I mean, they didn't want to stay there, and then that's why they ended up not on Geffen any longer.
Well, they landed on their feet. There are not many bands. Of all the bands that got chewed up by major labels at that time, the number of them that are still putting out relevant albums, you could probably count on one hand.
Right. Yeah.
Can't knock that. Cannot knock that. We loaded up the February rotation. I did go a little overboard on the covers, but it is important. I was able to finally find a decent cover of Rock Lobster by the band Shame, and I put up For You, Mr. Flick, and we talked about it a little bit already, what I think is one of the better Walking the Cow covers I have ever heard by Porridge Radio, a band I did not know until I found that cover.
And I haven't heard it yet, but to me, the gold standard cover of Walking the Cow is the TV on the Radio version.
Yeah, that's almost impossible. I can't promise it's that good. And I did throw on, I threw on some Sharon Van Etten, her cover of End of the World by, I think, Skeeter Davis, the original.
That's a good transition too, because her cover of that almost made my my playlist, my How Can You Mend a Broken Heart playlist this week, but didn't quite make it.
Well, let's use that as our moment to transition, shall we?
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe it will make it. Maybe I'll add it to my list, but before we're done,
we'll see.
I think there might be room for a 17th or 18. Let's make it an even 18 for my song or for my list, and put Sharon Van Etten's End of the World on it.
You can make the playlist as long as you like, sir.
And I will.
It's you up first.
Okay. All right. Let me see. Just a moment. I'm adding this to my list.
Are you a fan of the original? Because I think I like the Sharon Van Etten version, of course, but nothing touches the original on that one.
Yeah, that's a good song. It's not one I listen to that often, but yeah, it's a good song.
Man, when I was an oldies DJ, a lot of that stuff, you tune it out. I go listen to Henry VIII or Do the Freddy or just all those horrible, nightmarish records, and you just every once in a while you get a gem like End of the World. Oh my God, I couldn't wait for Skeeter Davis End of the World. It was so good. It was such a great break.
You're waiting for the end of the world.
I was definitely awaiting the end of the world.
For Elvis Costello.
Why do these eyes of mine cry? Sorry.
Okay, so if you remember back to my playlist when we did songs about the future,
yes,
and where mine ended up, it's not far off from where my love song list or my broken heart list. It's not far from that. It's these are troubled waters.
Sure.
And so I'm kicking mine off. Well, I'm kicking mine off with the namesake. I'm starting with How Can You Mend a Broken Heart. I'm going to start with Al Green's version of How Can You Mend a Broken Heart. And that is, I'm just going to, I'm going to save the rest for later, but that's the song I'm starting off with. How Can You Mend a Broken Heart by Al Green. All right. My first group of songs after the theme song all deal with knowing that a relationship is coming to the end. And the three songs that I have here to start this off, Bill Withers, Ain't No Sunshine, just ain't no sunshine when she's gone. She's always gone too long. Wonder if she's gone to stay. That's the theme of the first part of this list. Second song on the list. I know I'm losing you, which was another song like How Can You Mend a Broken Heart, where
two versions, right?
Yeah,
the Rare
exactly.
Earth.
Yeah,
Rare Earth. Yeah, for sure.
Not the Rare Earth version, but
whoa.
But no, there are three good versions when you bring that up, because you have the Temptations version, the original.
Yep.
And you also have the Rod Stewart version, and I went with the Rod Stewart version because this is already kind of Motown heavy. Motown had a lot of great heartbreak songs.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm including the Rod Stewart version to kind of give it a little variety here. But the Temptations version could have easily been the one to go with. And actually, I'm going to add a 19th song to mine because I'd already intended to put this on my list. I just didn't write it down.
Damn, son.
But yeah, going back to Motown, I heard it through the grapevine by Marvin Gaye, which is actually, I'm placing that one before Ain't No Sunshine. And then where I'm going to end this part of my playlist is Crying Time by Buck Owens. Which is another song that was covered greatly by Ray Charles. And interesting trivia on this, the Buck Owens version of Crying Time was a B-side.
Damn.
So just think about that. Just think about what the kind of life that song had. Like, I think of that as maybe the best Buck Owens song, and that was a B-side.
Wow, that we might have to do a Buck Owens show, because first of all, calling that the greatest, that's very bold, sir.
Well, it's a great song, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know.
How are you going to say that's not a great song?
It's no pity, pity patter, but all right.
I don't know. To me, that is that would be my Desert Island Buck Owens song. I'll put it that way.
Really? Wow. And would you cheat and then use the Beatles version of Act Naturally to get that onto the list?
No, but I would. If I'm going to cheat, I'll take the Dwight Yoakam version of Streets of Bakersfield, and I'll have to find a good cover of Love's Gonna Live Here. That's the way I would have to cheat for that. But
all right, I feel it, Buck Owens. I happened to be in Bakersfield the weekend he died, and I was able to buy I have several copies of the Sunday newspaper from Bakersfield the day Buck Owens died. Pretty intense. I got to dig that out.
You know what? A good cheat, though. Crying Time would be a good way to cheat if you're going to. This is a real sidebar here, but anyway, if you're going to cheat, I guess you might take the Ray Charles version of Crying Time because by the way, I can hear that.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, I mean, you could take the Ray Charles version of Crying Time because that's also pretty great.
Yeah, I found the Buck Owens Susan Ray version of Crying Time. From the very best of Buck Owens and Susan Ray. That's a power-packed album right there.
And by the way, something I think you can probably still find on YouTube. Ray Charles and Buck Owens did a duet on Crying Time on Hee Haw once, and definitely worth checking that out. And they also did Together again.
We are going to have to keep our Hee Haw recommendations to a bare minimum, I think, to make it in this world. But I get your point.
That's one I'm going to stand by that recommendation. Going to stand by it. Find Buck Owens and Ray Charles on Hee Haw, and you will thank me later.
Yeah, there's I think I'm going to start cataloging the number of purely innocent and organic mentions of Hee Haw. It's important.
All right, well, it's your turn.
All right, it's my turn. All right, I'm just going to go straight for the jugular. I think I'm gonna get into more songs about love than pure love songs, but I thought I'd start knowing especially where you're going thematically, I'm going to throw one. It changes every once in a while. I don't know. My opinion changes as to what the greatest love song ever written was. I, I suppose there's a half a dozen that I could name, but I'm gonna give that one to the first time I ever saw your face, which is a tough one to do because Ewan McCall, the recordings of that song that I love are not him. Johnny Cash has a fantastic version of it. The Roberta Flack version is fantastic.
It's
I could have. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, the Roberta Flack version is the way to go.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think Ewan McCall is one of the greatest songwriters ever, and not because everything he did was golden, but the Ballad of Accounting is one of the greatest things ever written by a human being. And then to also be able to write The First Time I Ever Saw Your Face, he wrote Dirty Old Town. Like, he's just, to me, he's elite songwriter. And I don't know. One of the things about a love song I gotta think is that you'd be flattered if somebody wrote a song that about you know what I mean for you like that. Like I think he wrote this for Patty Seeger, I believe is who he wrote it for. But either way, I mean, to me, you can't get much more like you can't do much more with the love song form than he does there. I just think it's absolute masterpiece. I might even throw two versions on, but you're right, Mr. Click. Probably the lead with Roberta Flack.
I say so.
Yep. It's all you.
Oh, that's it. That was your whole one.
That's my first one. Yeah. Well, if you're gonna go, I gotta thin them out if we're going that deep.
Okay. Well, I mean, but I've already gone through 5 of mine.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Then next up, I'll go a little deeper.
Okay. Yeah.
Still your turn.
I mean, your list is going to have to be a lot shorter than mine if we're going to make this work.
All right. We're
good. All right. So my next list is the next part of my list is basically what is happening when you're still kind of like you're broken up and you're still maybe in the same space as the other person and you're in contact with them, and it's not easy to forget about them because they're right there in front of you and you're having to deal with that. First song on this part of my list is Hot Burrito #1 by Flying Burrito Brothers. I'm your toy, I'm your old boy. I don't, that thing, being confronted with a person that you still have very strong feelings for, but they don't, they're not in that place with you. They don't have the feelings for you. It's unrequited. Next on the list, Etta James, I'd Rather Go Blind. Having to deal with the fact that you're seeing the other person and they're going out with somebody else, and you'd rather go blind than to have to face that. Next one is the newest on my list, and it was our mutual favorite album from last year, Purple Mountain's Darkness and Cold. Light of My Life is going out tonight.
Wow, that's really good. I didn't even think to include him, but come to think of it, yeah, he's capable of writing that caliber. Wow.
Well, and there was a lot, a lot on that album. Obviously, he had gone through a divorce, and there's a lot on that album that deals with that fact. And I'd Rather Go Blind is the one that deals with the most explicitly. But it isn't the only song that that he discusses that on the album.
Yeah.
And he being David Berman of Purple Mountains and formerly of Silver Jews.
Yeah, now I'm thinking about it, he wrote a lot of great relationship songs, but they were all loving, if not exclusively about love. Yeah, wow, good call.
Yeah. And with that, it's your turn.
All right, up next, I have to take a little detour here, and I'm gonna grab. I believe that Bob Dylan is probably the greatest writer about love, but I don't think he's a great love songwriter. And I know we disagree on this, but he's much stronger in writing about relationships and writing about the idea of love more than expressing itself. So while it's not a beloved genre to say that, oh yes, Bob Dylan is the greatest writer about love that has ever recorded, at least during the popular era. I can't think of anybody really who's even close. Um, and I mean, I think I could do 25 songs of his about love that I think are as insightful and as just really like giving form to things that normally words fail. Being able to even describe things that are otherwise just sort of feelings. I think he's absolutely masterful at. Blood on the Tracks. Like if we were to do a greatest album about love or concept or album about love, I mean, I think Blood on the Tracks wins hands down. I don't think anything's even close. So for me, Tangled Up in Blue is probably the greatest like song about love. But it's very cynical by then. By the mid 70s, he was really cynical. And I think the first song he wrote, where he was really, really writing about love in at just like a super, super elite level, was Boots of Spanish Leather. So that's his third album in, or maybe fourth. I can't remember. Another Side, I think, is fourth, right?
I mean, you have it more than me, I would think.
Okay, I think so. Yeah. Okay, so Boots of Spanish Leather is on Times They Are a Changing. So that's his third record, man. By his third record, he was already writing like the best protest songs I think any American did in the last half of the 20th century. And then, within 2 years, he's writing these incredible love songs. It Ain't Me, Babe is also great from that era. Fantastic. And then third, my last Dylan songs about love. I have to go back for the live version, and this is not just being me just doing a hot take, but the live at the Royal Albert Hall acoustic version of Visions of Johanna, I think is probably the greatest single performance he ever did. And I think that delivery of those lyrics in this context, I just think it might be the greatest like performance of the song about love either. I don't know. I go back and forth about what my favorite Dylan recording is, but the version of Visions of Johanna that was on the Biograph box and it's now on the Sidetracks box is that, and I don't think that if I was going to do a hot take here, it's the version on Blonde. I think lacks the nuance of this acoustic recording and the humanity of it, the degree to which or what he's really singing about. I think is most clear in the acoustic version. So I was tempted to do Lady Lady Lay because that's such a classic like attempt at a love song, but even that's I don't think a straight love song. I'm going to go with the songs about love, Boots of Spanish Leather, Visions of Johanna, and Tangled Up in Blue.
Okay, so you strongly prefer the acoustic version of Visions of Johanna to the Blonde on Blonde version?
The Blonde on Blonde version, yeah.
I love the Blonde on Blonde version.
When Dylan does the ghost of electricity howls on the bones of her face and this acoustic thing, like it is like it's his greatest vocal performance. That's probably what I mean. Dylan's greatest vocal performance is that acoustic version.
I understand what you're saying. I really like that studio version though. I don't know. I like everything about it. It's that is one of my all-time favorite Dylan songs, and that version of it is actually the one I favor.
Yeah, he was. I could see that, but like, if you think about that tour and what the bullshit he had to put up with, about his
Yeah.
songs, and, and like people wanting to do protest songs. For him to get up and just do a folky version of that, like just here's your folky shit, like in your face, I can do this too. Like it literally is like the peak of his power. He literally could do anything. Anything. And I mean, to have that power for even that short amount of time, I think the live version is a pretty great artifact of like just what peak '60s Dylan was. Man, I just unbelievable to me. But anyway, I'm glad. See, this is pretty typical. We both agree on Visions of Johanna. We just we have a version.
Yeah, I have a different. Yeah, yeah. But
All right.
but also we feel so strongly about different versions of it.
Yeah, it is strange, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah. All right. So the next part of my list, the thread here is okay. Well, now you're just more. You're isolated. You're maybe not seeing the person face to face that you broke up with, but definitely consuming your thoughts all the time. Maybe the all-timer on this is the song I'm going to start with, and that is Crazy by Patsy Cline. Of course, Willie Nelson wrote it. And consider that for a moment. Like, Willie Nelson, right out of the gate, wrote Crazy.
Right.
And maybe peaked right there. But it didn't really hurt him, though, either, that he peaked so early. But I think you can easily say, or certainly credibly say, that that's the best song that Willie Nelson ever wrote, and he wrote it right out of the gate.
Ooh, I'm not sure I 100% agree with that, but yeah, it's certainly right up there.
Yeah, if it's not the greatest, it's certainly what, 1, 2, or 3?
Yeah, it's a Nightlife.
That was also right out of the gate.
Hello Walls.
Right out of the gate.
That other
songs
one,
he wrote for other people.
Yeah, the song's right out of the gate. The other one, which is the Funny How Time Slips Away.
Yeah.
And that's
actually
like all-time classic.
I would say my second favorite Willie Nelson song ever is a song that he wrote for himself, and that's Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground. That's my number 2. But
all right, we got to do a
one.
Willie Nelson. We definitely have to do a Willie Nelson show. Definitely.
We have so many in the hopper. I'm sure we will at some point.
Yeah.
Next song carrying on this theme is a Bee Gees song. Of course, Bee Gees wrote the song that makes up my title for the list and then our title for the show. But it's not that title. It's not the title track. How Can You Mend a Broken Heart? It's To Love Somebody. Also covered very well by the Flying Burrito Brothers. But we already have Flying Burrito Brothers represented here. Of course, that's not going to stop me from double dipping on the Bee Gees, but I'm just going to go with the Bee Gees version of To Love Somebody because they originated it. And then
Nina Simone's version's pretty tight.
Yeah, that is a great one. Yeah, that one would be worth consideration as well. And then I'm going to go with the White Stripes doing I Just Don't Know What to Do with Myself. And I'm going to end this part of the section, or this section of the playlist, with I Am the Cosmos by Chris Bell.
Ooh.
Yeah. Every night I tell myself I am the cosmos, I am the wind, but that don't get you back again. That's where we are in this severed relationship.
Interesting. I don't know. We didn't really talk. I don't know exactly what is all on your all list, but definitely when we get around to the big star category, the love songwriting has to be discussed as a separate.
Yeah, and well, and in this regard too, as far as anything to do with love, like it's Chris Bell's solo songs I think are like the best in that realm.
Yeah.
And one of the best ever. Like I'm the Cosmos, and you and your sister are just like two of the greatest. And of course, they're both, they're not, they're love songs because they're about love, but they're not, they're very complicated love songs.
That whole solo album of his,
Yeah.
the first side in particular. Um, Although I might say 13 might be one of the greatest love songs
And that's,
ever
yeah,
written.
that's more of a traditional love song. And of course, the, reason why it's called 13 is because it's Alex Chilton at age 13 and, puppy love sort of, romance.
Yeah, maybe that's if we get to that as a genre, yeah, that's a tough one to beat.
Yeah, if we're doing more of a tradition, or if I were doing more of a traditional love song playlist, 13 might be the way to go. But
Yeah, I might grab the Karen O version. But anyway, carry on.
Well, anyway, that's the last song in this section. You would you would not go to the original for 13. You're not going to go.
No, I'd go for the original.
There are a lot of great covers of 13.
Like
don't get me wrong. But
the Karen O cover is really good. Really good.
Yeah, well, actually, Garbage has a really good cover of it too, and Wilco. I don't know why it is, but there are so many more covers of 13 than any other Big Star song. There totally is, like way more.
Yeah, I mean that might be their signature song to the normies, man. The only thing I can add to your genre, and it actually might belong on the one before, is Blank Expression by the Specials is about that feeling like when you're home for Christmas break. Think of all the uncomfortable romantic, seeing an ex like that when you're back home for the holidays. There's that specific feeling of, like it's out of your life and then all of a sudden you're re-immersed in all the bad old feelings and all the bad old places. That would be mine.
That is another list that I know what you're getting at, and like that's there are a couple of songs like that where it's just like that doesn't really fit my list because my list is just sort of the not so much like you're not right for me. It's like I want to be right for you, but you don't want me, and that sort of thing. That's what this list is for me.
Yeah. Alrighty, well, I'm going to break out of here, and I'm just going to talk about a couple of single individual songs. They're all kind of they're still in the about love category. Although while I consider Dylan to be the greatest writer about love, I think the single greatest verse written about love has to be Joni Mitchell's "Both Sides Now," the middle verse. I'm going to put it on the playlist. Like, there's a bunch of recordings, and the one that was most popular wasn't her. It was Judy Collins covering it in the 60s with a sort of like hippie vibe to it. There's a version that Joni Mitchell recorded late in her career that is, it's such a great performance that this is not like just some like, pop record. Like, this is, she wrote this when she was like 19 or 20 years old too, I think. Like, for someone of that age to have that much like understanding of how complex emotions are and life is, and to basically use that sort of duality throughout the entire song. I mean, it's a masterpiece. I don't know anybody like the number of songs that are like of that level of quality. In my opinion, is very, 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 very small. It's not really a love song. It's just one verse about love, but that verse about how it's easy to become cynical about love. It's very easy to do that if you don't have a balanced view. It's very nuanced and pretty overwhelming. So Joni Mitchell, I think, has written the greatest verse. It's in Both Sides Now. It's a great. All the verses are great, but the love verse, I gotta say, is up there for me.
Okay. So that you're just doing one song on that
I'm just doing one song on that one. I'll make a little special time for Joni Mitchell.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna quick do an edit on the last section that I did. That is where Sharon Van Etten's "End of the World" will slot in, and that goes in between "To Love Somebody" by the Bee Gees and "I Just Don't Know What to Do with Myself" by the White Stripes. So that's where that song goes.
All right,
okay.
I see that.
What's that?
Who wrote "I Don't Know What to Do with Myself" was written by that's a Tin Pan Alley song, right?
I think it was Burt Bacharach, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those. Brill Building, maybe? Something like that. Brill Building is what I meant, not Tin Pan Alley. It's Brill Building. That's like professional songwriter stuff.
All right, let's find out before we move on.
Yeah, because again, why would you not choose the Dusty Springfield in that case?
Why would I not do it, or
yeah, why would you pick the White Stripes version over Dusty Springfield's?
You know, both are there are a lot of songs on my list that I have to make hard decisions on which one to go with.
Ooh.
So I mean, it's to pick one is to not say that there's anything wrong with the other. There's nothing wrong with Dusty Springfield's version of it. Burt Bacharach and Hal David, by the way. No, but I've always really liked the White Stripes version of that, and I think it fits well.
I'm with it. All right.
All right. So let me make a quick decision on whether to make this last part into two sections or to just finish it out right here. I guess I'll make this into two sections. Does that work?
Works for me.
Okay. All right. So my next section, kind of going along, I mean, basically in the same place emotionally, but maybe a little bit deeper into it. Although we were already pretty deep into it. My next section, though, I told you, Motown would be very well represented here, and my next one is definitely one of the all-timers, and perfectly. It's just perfect. It's a great song, and also. There's something. Okay, so the next song is "What Becomes of the Broken Hearted" by Jimmy Ruffin, and it's a song I love because it is very heartbreaking and but also kind of there's something very uplifting about it as well, and it works. It isn't in conflict with itself, but it is just. It sort of feels optimistic in a way, because of the arrangement of it, but very, very much thematically about broken hearts and I don't know. I don't know. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I mean, it's a blues record, right? I mean, it has that. It's certainly in the blues idiom.
It's definitely, I don't know. I would say it's more of a pop song than a blues song for sure.
I do not know enough about music theory to win that argument.
It
would, if you were to write it. I mean, the music, it's in a blues scale anyway.
Well, no, it's well, you mean as if it's like in the key of E, or is that what you're saying?
I'm trying to the way the melody. Again, I don't know enough about music. I should probably not even venture down that path.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to say it's like blues, I think that omits minor chords really from the equation, and there's certainly minor chords. This What Becomes of the Broken Hearted is I would say just definitely a pop song.
Oh.
But anyway, it's just the chord progression of it. There's something about it that is sort of and the idea of being on the road and I don't know. It's but it's great. It's a great song. It's like an all-timer. and that is my next song on the list. Continuing with that theme, really, really getting down into the dirt. Like pretty much all these songs on my list. Hank Williams, "I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry," and carrying on with very much in the same vein. Now here's a bluesy song for you. Lucinda Williams, "Still I Long for Your Kiss," from Car Wheels on a Gravel Road. That's a very bluesy song.
Yeah, I only meant the blues because blues is a style of music which I think of as allowing you to feel both bad and good in the same from the same source. Those things can be held together. That was my only.
I think of it more as like a song structure and a way of playing guitar, more than anything else, I guess.
Well, someday we're going to have to get a music historian. Because John Lee Hooker went from the South to Detroit. I mean, there was Iggy Pop. I think probably is part of it too. There was real blues there, you know.
Yeah.
It was certainly around. It wasn't all gospel.
No, but Motown was very much about pop. They're about making hits, and they make great hits. But the song structures are pop song structures. With minor chords, harmonies. Great melodies.
Motown stuff. You're right. I don't have as much Motown as you do, but I mean, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, one of my all-time favorite Motown songs, "What Becomes of the Broken Hearted." Probably a top 5 Motown song for me, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's up there.
It's one of the best. It's to me that is one of the best. And of course, that's. I don't know. I mean, off the top of my head, "Signed, Sealed, Delivered," that's one of the best. But then, "Superstition," that's also a Motown song. Heard It Through the Grapevine is one of the best. And
"Tears of the Clown."
Yeah, "Tears of the Clown." "Tracks of My Tears," that's another one that's right up there.
Diana Ross, the Supremes alone, if that's all they did, would be impressive. All right, I feel you.
All right, well, yep, you're up.
All right, so I am going to take a moment here to. I think I'm not an expert on love or romance, so to go too deep into either from a definition point of view is I wouldn't necessarily buy that from me either, but to the extent possible, I think Roxy Music deserves a special slot on the "How Can You Mend a Broken Heart" countdown. I actually think I don't know if you a Roxy Music fan at all?
Yeah.
Mr. Flick?
Yes, I am.
Are you a fan of any of the lounge lizardy stuff? The stuff with Brian Ferry always looking like a Monte Carlo playboy? Does any of that stuff resonate with you? Do you follow any of that at all?
Okay, so yeah, I would say yes, where you fit that more into a clammy context. To have him go into more of a purist realm of that, maybe not as much, but where it fits into a clammy context, yes, I like that.
I think Roxy Music has always throughout their career tried some variation of they were like the sexy band, and they were they had that weird androgyny lounge lizardy thing going when Brian was in the band. You know what I mean? It was like there was a certain weirdness to it, but they always, no matter what was going on around them, had this sort of it's like sexy isn't even the word. I don't know how to say it. They always had that sort of that vibe about them. Do you know what I'm getting at? Like,
yeah, yeah. The word for it is like on the tip of my tongue.
yeah. Well, again, I
Like
there's some layers of irony here.
Yeah, like trashy, but that's not quite the word.
Yeah,
Um,
they always had some angle on it.
I'll just go back to my word. I'll go back to glammy. That's
Right, but this is my point.
what that is.
Sorry it's taking me so long to get to it, but like I always thought they were very crass and very cynical, and the glam was always very exploitive. I always thought it was sort of like posturing and posing, and it never really rings totally true. Like "Love Is the Drug" is a great song, like a great party-ish song, and I'm sure in its time it was all sexy, but like Avalon is really it's their last album, and I swear it's the only one that they like meant. It wasn't. There was nothing campy about it, really. There was nothing. There was no nudge, nudge, wink, wink about it. Like it was. I thought it was way more on the nose with what they've always tried to be. Like it wasn't necessarily prog at all. It wasn't forward thinking. It was actually a little bit regressive. But I think you could make a case that a lot of what they did was backward looking.
There's that term again.
Oh, I know you hate when I do that, but it's the truth. It's the truth. That anybody who's reviving stuff, to me, I'm always suspicious of. But I think Avalon is their first album where they weren't really trying to make some sort of schmaltzy retread of something from the past. I really think it was the. I'm sad. I always have thought they had one more great record in them, but they went out on top with Avalon, and I can't think of a more like more romantic album. It's again, I guess you could say romantic love is just a subset of love. I'm going to say that Avalon's the greatest romantic love album ever made, and I don't think it's close. I don't think there's competition.
Are you picking a song from it, or are you picking the
whole album? I'm going to take the whole album end to end.
The whole album's on your playlist.
Well, I could put it on there. I mean, I don't have to, but I could.
I'm just wondering, are you doing that, or would you pick a representative song from it?
More than this would be what I would pick.
Yeah, I was wondering because that's where I thought you were going with it all along, and I just wanted to.
That's on too. I mean, that vocal performance by the lady who was recording at the next studio, she just happens to be there, that incredible vocal part is just random chance that she was there and could do it. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's the greatest romantic album about romantic love that I can think of. I don't think anything's close.
Yeah, but that I would say More Than This for me is like an all-time. If you're really like that's a love song for when things are working out. Which again doesn't fit my list, but
yeah, I don't know. Have you ever met a female? I've never dated a female who liked it as much as I did. It might have a little bro energy on it. I have to spend some time with that. I haven't thought about that.
I mean, there's a whole lot. that's like a big can of worms to uncork. I guess you don't cork a can, but whatever.
All right. Well, the rock
that's too much to unpack. Too much to unpack.
All right. All right. I defer.
Yeah. Anyway, as far as the revival thing goes, though, I do have to say a quick thought on that to continue this.
Have at it.
I mean, if you can't do that, then the Sex Pistols couldn't cover Substitute, and the Ramones couldn't do a Beach Boys melody, and and that sort of thing. So
punk has always been reactionary. It's always been backward looking. Primarily.
What isn't, I guess, is the point. Everything is.
I think, glam went out of its way to be backward looking and to reference the past.
Not the term I would use, but okay. It sounds like a dig. It's a dig. I don't know,
I don't know if it is. I mean, the New York Dolls, to me, were a regressive band, but not exclusively.
They, I don't think regressive or backward looking are terms that sound anything other than negative.
I don't know. I do mean a little bit negative.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
It's cyclical. There's always a time where there's a revival of something. Like the rock and roll just falling out of the sky in the mid '50s is a fairly big paradigm shift. It took less than 10 years before Sha Na Na was out doing, doo-wop.
Well, this is my point, though. It makes sense to call Sha Na Na, regressive, or certainly they were a revival. I think that's probably how they term themselves. But that isn't to say that Roxy Music is Sha Na Na or the New York Dolls or any of that. So I guess what I'm getting at is you're kind of putting them on the same footing with Sha Na Na.
Well, this is going to have to wait till we get to our all diversions show, because I think that Brian Ferry is right wing, is right wing.
What?
Which is not necessarily the leap from backward looking, but I mean, conservatism is always about a return to a better time or restoring something from the past, and I don't think it's coincidence that you have this testosterone fueled punk that's all backward looking like that. Come on.
Yeah, no, but what I'm getting at, I don't see strong parallels between Roxy Music and Sha Na Na, or that's what I'm getting at.
Okay, well, all right. I guess if you want, I really wasn't making that case, and I believe you are trying. you have once again weaponized Sha Na Na.
The thing about it is, I may have weaponized it, but you threw it out there for me to. It's like you threw me the gun. You threw me the gun, and I shot it.
Using Sha Na Na as a weapon.
To paraphrase Pat Benatar.
That's right. Oh, what a low point this truly is.
Well,
and I can't even safely discuss Sha Na Na and Bowser. All right, anyway, you're up.
Okay. All right. This is my last three. So my playlist of 19 songs. We'll close out here. Here's one that you're very familiar with, and that is a song written by your favorite. Do you have a guess?
No.
Your favorite. Well, I don't know what.
You're not laughing with me here, I fear. Keep going.
No, I am. But certainly one of your two favorite Minnesotans, if not the favorite Minnesotan of yours.
Prince.
Yeah, that is right. And
Rogers Nelson, yes.
And it's Nothing Compares to You by Sinead O'Connor.
Ooh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, that's at this point, like there hasn't been too much of I'll just bring it on myself, but there hasn't been so much of development emotionally. Just I'm still kind of in the same place emotionally with this playlist. But certainly if this isn't like, honestly, now that I think about it, this song should have been toward the beginning because it's been 7 hours and 15 days. Or is that right? 7 hours and 15 days. Well, no, I guess my whole playlist can take place in in just over 2 weeks. So yeah, I guess that's where we're at. So it is in the right spot. So my playlist, the chronology of my playlist is just a bit over 2 weeks. All right. So anyway, that's the first part of the last part. And then next, this might be a little surprising, but it's a song I like quite a bit, and that is "It's a Heartache" by Bonnie Tyler.
Speaking of Rod Stewart, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even know if I've ever heard Rod Stewart's version of that.
Oh
but
no, I'm
maybe
just
I
saying
will.
that song is a shameless ripoff of his solo stuff. In my humble opinion,
that could be why I like this song. Actually, I don't know, because it's not like I'm a big Bonnie Tyler fan.
Sounds
But
like him. If
yeah,
you
she
told me
does.
she was imitating him, like I'd be like, yeah, obviously, of course.
But it's I that could be a coincidence though too. I mean, she's Welsh. She has an accent. Could be no more complicated than that, really. And yeah, I mean, and
she's pretty over the top with the vocal fry. She was vocal fry before vocal fry was cool. You got to give her that.
I don't know. There's that much. That is what her vocals sound like consistently. It's not like she just had a vocal that sounded like that, and then that was the only time.
I don't know if
you just want to attack Bonnie Tyler now.
I do.
It's like your revenge. It's like your revenge on the Roxy Music thing.
If that's correct, if I'm going to avenge and I'm going to restore honor by putting Bonnie Tyler in her correct place. There.
And by the way, just in case you weren't paying attention a few minutes ago, I was not ripping on Roxy Music. That's not what I was saying.
I know. I know.
I'm not. I'm saying that if anybody's just like listening to this, half listening to this,
I do intend to try to offend the Bonnie Tyler fan.
Yeah. Well, you weren't going to do that with Sinead O'Connor, though.
No, I love Sinead O'Connor. Sinead O'Connor's way underrated. If Bonnie Tyler, I don't know. I think Kim Carnes and Bonnie Tyler both were sort of working the same shtick, sort of in the same era. And I think they sort of, it's like when you're walking down the street and someone coming the other direction wearing the same shirt you have on, you just like, you don't feel so great about that shirt anymore. It's those two, they are each other. They're both mine in the same vein, you know?
Well, when was Betty Davis Eyes? This was 1978, 81. This song. What's that?
81. But Kim Carnes was around before that.
Well, but did anybody know that she was around?
I don't know. What was Carla Bonoff's big single? Wasn't she another husky alto?
This is more your field.
Husky altos? Thanks.
No, I think it's just like, top 40 of that era is probably more your field.
Yes, I will do a Carla Bonoff, or is it Susie Quattro? All I'm saying is Bonnie Tyler. If you're trying to make the case that she's not, are you really trying to make the case that that's not a bit of an affectation?
I don't know. That's she was Welsh. She had an accent. She was singing with the accent, which maybe she would have done, but that would have been an affectation if she would have dropped the accent to sing, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. Some of the fry in there it feels. I feel manipulated when I hear it. That's all.
Yeah, well,
I don't want to blow up your body. I'm sorry. Next time I have strong feelings about Bonnie Tyler, I'm going to keep them to myself.
It's not like I know her career very well. I probably have only ever heard. I've heard 3 songs that she made hits, and then I've heard her version of "Who'll Stop the Rain," which is really weird if you've never heard that.
I'll look that one up.
Here's what I'll say about Bonnie Tyler from the little bit I know other than the song. So this is a song I like. Every other Bonnie Tyler song I've ever heard, she sounds kind of like she's influenced by Meatloaf. And I think she even maybe used the same producer.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think if anything, she has a Meatloaf hang up. I don't know. I don't know enough about her career though.
You couldn't pay me to listen to a Meatloaf album. I mean, literally, there's not a sum of money. I mean, I guess everybody has their price, but you'd be surprised how high mine is on any Meatloaf whatsoever.
Except for the fact I think Roy Bittan played on Bat Out of Hell.
That's not enough. I need more.
All right. Well, I do like Roy Bittan, and by the way, I'm echoing, but I don't know if you're doing anything on your end that's making me echo, but I'm hearing an echo.
I shouldn't. It should not be for me.
Okay, and by the way, surprising, something I wasn't aware of, but I have some Roy Bittan trivia that relates to something earlier in my list. He was one of the producers on Car Wheels on a Gravel Road by Lucinda Williams.
Is that right?
As was Steve Earle. Yeah. So.
Where did they record it? That wasn't recorded in New Jersey, was it?
So they recorded it in two places. One was the San Fernando Valley, and the other might have been at a studio in Texas, but I don't remember now.
All right, I got it.
Okay, so anyway, that's essentially my last song, because my real last song is the Bee Gees version of How Can You Mend a Broken Heart to bookend my How Can You Mend a Broken Heart playlist.
I know I always say we need to do a show, but a Bee Gees show seriously needs to work its way up into the queue because there's a lot to talk about there. Respectable choice all. I have to do a couple quick honorable mentions because I didn't build like huge cohorts of themes, but I pulled like individual songs that represented themes. I have to give a shout out to Liz Phair for Fucking Run, which I thought was a refreshingly honest song about how like most of our sexual and romantic lives really sort of start. There's a clumsiness that almost there's sort of a clumsiness to being young and having your hormones flying all over the place. Like I guess there are teenage Lotharios who are masters of the craft, but I think for many people it's a very uncomfortable time. And she wrote about that and on quite a few songs in a way that I thought was honest and fantastic, and just didn't get enough credit. The most perverted, weird connection between love and a song I have to mention is Weightless Again by the Handsome Family, in which they equate death with love, which is really a lot to unpack. I can't do it here, but you've got to give it a try. It's way out there, but lyrically, it's fantastic. Its description of that time when you're interested with somebody and you're just like you're not even sure where to start. It really covers that. It covers it in like the most black pill possible way, but it covers it in a way that again I thought was very, very interesting. The last one I want to talk about, my final song. I think the last great love song probably is Magnetic Fields' "The Book of Love." I think there's starting to be some alternative weddings that play it. But I'm trying to think of like what's the last great love song that you could think of that's been written. And I'm going back, I think, like 15 years or so to say Magnetic Fields' "Book of Love." I mean, I can't think of anything that's even close. Maybe like a Nick Cave song or two. Maybe, and probably not even those.
You mean in a requited love sort of way?
Yeah, well, Book of Love is like a kind of a cynical take on the love song, I guess. But like all, most cynicism is just, true believers who are betrayed in one way or another. So they're all true believers deep down. So it's like a cynical, but it's actually very uncynical. I don't know if you haven't spent any time with Book of Love. And I'm normally not a huge Peter Gabriel fan, but Peter Gabriel's cover of Magnetic Field's Book of Love is pretty good too. So I'm gonna say I feel like that's the last like super great love song that has a chance of being like in print in 100 years. It's probably that would be that one, I think. Book of Love by Magnetic Fields.
Maybe a subject for another day.
Yeah, boy, we should do something. We should really do a silly love song show too, just because there are so many like great corny love songs. Like we didn't cover the corny, gooey, sappy side, but think of how much you love pop songs and the power pop format. Half of those songs are named just females' names, right? Like, does it every other pop song have to be named like Jenny or something like that? Isn't it almost all love songs?
Are you talking about 8675309?
Any of them, yeah, any power pop. They all have to, like, every song apparently has to be named for a female.
Well, I mean, Material Issue really did well with that.
Oh yeah,
Diane and Valerie Loves Me and Renee Remains the Same.
Do you? I always thought that
Kim the Waitress, but that was a cover. Kim the Waitress was a cover.
Material Issue was always a little bit nudge, nudge, wink, wink, right? Like they were kind of in on it. They were self-referential, right?
Well, a bit, but I guess on what, give me an analog for that.
Like it was a put on. It was kayfabe. It was a character. It was a work.
A bit, but yeah, I mean, I guess I would want to know what else like what you have in mind as far as how
like,
what level of.
Like they were rock stars before they were rock stars. Like they acted like rock stars probably in real life. You know what I mean? Like it was a work.
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. I kind of think they also probably acted very much not like rock stars when they were. So it's hard to say. I think.
When is the last time you ever saw anybody walking around like they were a rock star? When is the last time you've seen a rock musician, like somebody in public trying to act like rock and roll cool? I can't think of it. It's got to be 20 years. Oh, you mean
somebody that isn't a rock star or somebody that is?
Like, I think I did. The guy who told me to buy the Ty Segall record at Record Store Day was non-ironically rock star in public.
Well, I remember a few years ago, there was a guy on the train who was very much at a Sid Vicious level dress.
Ooh, yeah, you know what? You're right. The punks still really do. They're not in character. Like that's who they are.
Yeah, and I mean it looks like a lot of work, and that's the thing. It's like just that level of work that goes into the way you look. How often do you see people do it on that level?
The goths, maybe. Goths definitely come from goth rock. I mean, that's a rock subculture too. Goth is. I know there's other places where it isn't, but in this country, in the U.S. anyway, that's a subculture of rock. Speaking of which, and I will, I know this probably, I believe Bauhaus is going to do a full tour, so that's got to be that's my first must see concert of 2020. Is Bauhaus coming to New York? I haven't looked to see when it is. I hope I haven't missed it already. That would be totally like me, wouldn't it? But that's a big one, boy. Having a Bauhaus tour come through New York, that's big.
My first of the year might be this weekend. We'll see how things go. But I'm going to try to see Sloan somewhere in the Midwest. We'll see how things work out.
Yeah. So our next episode is a big one. It's a biggin, as they say in the Midwest. We are talking The indie
Yeah, the indie odds. Yeah, should be plenty to talk about, and we're going to flex it out a bit. We're going to discuss the first half of the odds next week, and the second half in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and what's interesting, and sometimes this really works, and sometimes it just sort of works, but we're each defining for ourselves what indie means, which is a big deal. And I hate to get into all the lawyer ball shit, but we may have to.
Yeah, well, and I don't know. Yeah, to me, musical classifications only go so far, only work so well.
Indie is both a style of music and it is a distribution mechanism. Like independent record labels, I think is probably the origin of it. But at some point, it also became a sound. So you could be a major label band playing an indie rock sound.
Yeah, which makes it right and wrong. Yeah, it's like in the 90s when bands were alternative, but they were the biggest bands in the world. Doesn't quite make sense, but...
Well, but also, for rap music, almost all of those... I mean, the real masters of indie music probably in the last 20 years were the rap artists who sold their stuff out of their trunk and kept their rights and then only licensed the records. You know what I mean? They kept their own paper.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to get down to it, it's like indie films. Indie films are sometimes like the variation between this indie film's budget and another indie film's budget. That is like on. I was going to say Miramax, because Miramax back in the day was an indie studio, but they had tons of money. They were putting tons of money into those movies.
Right.
So it's kind of, it's just like everything else. You get right down to it. There are two kinds of music, good and bad. That's it. That's all there is.
All right. Well, I've been trying to move my my own internal meter that direction since I know that it's an opinion of yours that is sincerely held, and it has some aspirational elements. I will try hard. Yeah. All right. So it's indie next week.
That's right.
Indie aughts. We're going to do the first half. I've been waiting a long time to talk indie aughts, so it's going to be epic. We will see you then.
See you then.